We got something new for the RX8 today. Take a look. It's a brand new coolant reservoir and it has the sensor and everything. Common issue on these cars is the coolant level sensor in the reservoir. Sometimes it just doesn't like to work at all and just keeps the light on in the dash the whole time. So I'm gonna install this. Let's take this old one out. Let's put this new reservoir in. Hey, so right here I'm taking off the battery for the battery cover. You got to remove this, and there's a little hose right there. And then you got to suck out the coolant from the reservoir, sucking it into the bottle. Just using a vacuum for that. And then might as well just take off this upper hose, get that thing loose, holding the clamp down, and then eventually getting it out. And did a little close up on the sensor there. And then just unplugging, there's a little sensor right next to the air conditioning, just unplugging that so far, and then getting off this cover. I didn't know it was the computer, but apparently that's the cover for the computer, which didn't know that, but now I do know where the computer is. So gotta get that off just for more space and stuff to see around. And then there's a little clip, gotta take that off, already did. And then gotta remove the air box in order to get, one of the hoses is tucked underneath there, you'll see soon enough. Taking off the air box, just loosening that up, and then taking out this air box. So you can see I'm struggling here. It's kind of a pain to take off this air box. I want to get an aftermarket one. Maybe that'll be easier to take in and off. I don't know, but only one way to find out, right? Gotta do my research on that, but it's kind of a pain to take off that massive thing. Then taking off where the air box sits. This was kind of easy, just 4 bolts. Just gotta take those off, loosen them up, and then there's a little vacuum hose there. There's a vacuum hose in that area. You just disconnect it, you can lift it up. And now I had to lift it up in order to take some clips off from the side because some hoses stayed there. So I took off those clips using my needle nose, just pushed the tabs in, and then they came out. And then I took a whole air box out right there, and then it's onto that coolant hose, small little hose. You can see the 2 that go to the radiator, one right there, and then the other bigger hose there. This one was hard to get out. I was struggling a little bit with this hose, but I just had to, because it was positioned on a place where I had to use angled pliers to get it, and you could see I was spilling some coolant there. Like, oh shit, oh look, there it goes, you know. Got that off. Taking out the reservoir bolts. Don't really need to do that there, but I had to take out the battery. Here's me plugging the memory saver in so I didn't lose my radio stations and whatnot. And you just now disconnect the battery, take out the hold down. This was easy, you just slide it on out. I didn't show taking off the battery terminals, but that's okay. Those are easy taking off. And then there's a hose down there. I didn't know this, but the battery is a 2-piece hold down. So I was struggling for a long time. You could see that daylight ended and stuff, but the battery hold down was in fact 2 pieces. And then you see I wiggled the last hose out like that, and the coolant reservoir is out. Putting the new one in. Just basically doing the reverse thing, putting the hose on, gonna put the clamp back on and stuff like that. Gotta line it up. I like it because I'm OCD like that. Putting it in where the bolt holes go. And then, of course, putting the clamp back on the reservoir here. You can see me putting it down and slide down and then angling it. Gonna angle it a little bit right here, and then I angled it back to where it should be, and then that's it. Then putting the battery, because it's a 2-piece, putting the 2-piece thing back on. So it's getting a little dark here. I'm using a little small flashlight. Kind of hard to see here, but I ended up clipping it back in, and it's all good and sturdy. I didn't need to take off that bolt, but I tightened it back down. Here was where I got some more light, my good light, and putting the battery hold down back in, and then gonna put the battery terminals on soon. Making sure the battery stays still. And putting the battery terminals back on right there. Tightening them, of course, because you do not want that thing to come loose when you're on the road. So make sure you got it not too tight, of course, but make sure that they don't move. Putting the air box hold down back on. This was pretty easy, just the 4 bolts, and then just hook up the vacuum lines, the air lines, whatever they are, whatever they do. Just hook those back up. and putting the nuts back on, tighten the nuts all up, make sure that thing is tightened and secured, as well as putting those, I didn't show it, but putting those hoses back on, putting the air box, putting those back on, make sure they're in their spot. Here's me. You can see that I'm struggling putting the air box in. It's not that fun to take off. You really could risk breaking the boot or something. Good thing I haven't, but it's really hard to put back on. And I'm tightening everything up. You want to tighten everything up when it comes to air, you know, and then tightening down the final part, the reservoir. Well, not yet the final part. Tightening down the reservoir, and then putting the hose back on. Putting this hose back on, of course, gotta put a clamp back there, and then filling it with coolant. But yeah, final step, double check your work, make sure everything is tightened and not loose, and let's see if this light is still on.
Place, tighten everything. Nothing's in the way of stuff. You're plugged in, you're plugged in. Everything be plugged in, you're good. Plugged in. Cool. Let's fire this baby up. Oh, and the light's not on. Yay! Oh, I gotta blast the fucking heater though.